Ich freue mich jetzt, dass wir eine Vertreterin der Europäischen Kommission hier auf unserer Konferenz begrüßen dürfen. Und zwar wird sie uns über Zoom zugeschaltet. Das ist Frau Klara Engels Perenyi. Sie haben die Möglichkeit, Fragen zu stellen. Und dazu werden für Sie hier im Saal sowie für die Leute, die im Livestream dabei sind, das Tool Mentimeter benutzen. Die Zugangsdaten sollten Ihnen jetzt gleich eingeblendet werden. Sie können da ohne Probleme mehrere Fragen auch eintippen und es immer wieder wiederholen. Die Fragen können Sie gerne auf Englisch und auf Deutsch stellen. Frau Perenyi wird dann die Fragen entsprechend beantworten, wie sie sprachlich am besten hinbekommt. Der Vortrag selbst wird jetzt in englischer Sprache sein. Und damit hoffe ich, dass wir Frau Engels Perenyi schon zugeschaltet haben. Und dann würde ich gerne gleich an Sie weitergeben.
Ja, vielen Dank. Sie können mich hören, glaube ich.
Genau, ja.
Nicht sehen. Es freut mich sehr, heute bei Ihnen dabei zu sein, auch nur, wenn von hier aus meinem Arbeitszimmer in Brüssel. Wir haben besprochen, dass ich meine Präsentation auf Englisch halte, einfach weil meine Kenntnisse der Fachsprache in diesem Bereich auf Deutsch noch nicht sehr gut sind, aber ich hoffe, dass ich dann die Fragen auf Deutsch beantworten kann. Und dann damit fange ich dann mit der Präsentation an. I will give you an overview of how life skills fit in the EU policy on adult learning and what concrete steps we are planning to undertake in order to support the skills development of adults. On the next slide, please. EU member states have been working for the past decade on improving the functioning of adult learning systems and also their governance. The need for green and digital transformation and now the COVID pandemic have highlighted the urgency of giving everyone the possibility to develop their skills for work and for life. They have underlined the importance of life skills and our capacity to adapt, to manage change, and to care for each other as a community. Next slide, please. And a lot has happened also in the European policy around adult learning. In an effort not to leave anyone behind, the European Pillar of Social Rights defends the right of everyone to education, training, and lifelong learning. The European Pillar of Social Rights Action Plan, which you see here on the slide, sets an ambitious target for adult learning, which says that by 2030, 60% of adults should participate in training every year. We are still very far from this. As you can see, in 2016, it was less than 38%, and even currently, most probably not much further. These targets have been welcomed by leaders of EU member states in their summit earlier this year in May. Access to adult learning must be seen also as a precondition for inclusion and participation in the labor market and in society at large. Meeting these challenges of the current society requires an enormous increase in the provision of high quality learning opportunities and a robust lifelong guidance system and also validation, which allows people to take into account the skills and talents they already have. The next slide, please. Achieving the fair and inclusive society and economic recovery in which no one is left behind needs further attention and to delivering upskilling pathways for a greater number of people who are stuck in low-skilled jobs or have no jobs at all. Providing basic literacy, numeracy, and digital skills on which to build further learning and access to qualification remains of key importance. Next slide, please. Here you can see an example from the skills online vacancy analysis tool from CEDEFOP. Here we can get an overview even on country basis, but what you can see now is the European average on the most requested skills in job vacancies which are currently out. And here adaptation to change is the #1 required skill, which is a real life skill. And the last 2 years have made this more obvious than ever. Next slide, please. The Skills Agenda for Europe, which was published last year in July, sets out a 5-year plan to help individuals and businesses develop more and better skills and put them to use. One of the 12 actions is on skills for life. You can see here in detail what is included in the Skills Agenda for Europe on skills for life. Many adults are inactive on the labor market, including increasing numbers who are living long and active retirement. These people are very important for the economy, and the need for skills in their lives is equally important. The PIAC survey and other studies have well documented the public and private benefits of skills development throughout life. Economic and employment benefits, but also increased social returns in terms of social inclusion, improved civic participation, better health, lower incidence of criminality, and greater individual well-being and fulfillment, as well as reduction in healthcare costs, especially for older people. This is why the European Skills Agenda is promoting skills for life, which it sees as essential to social inclusion and developing open, democratic, and fair societies across Europe. Erasmus Plus also supports the development of such skills, typically acquired in non-formal learning. The next slide, please. In recent years, much emphasis has been placed on basic skills in the sense of literacy, numeracy, and digital skills. These are indeed essential for living a decent life. But other types of basic literacies have also become indispensable for autonomous and happy adults. Skills like being able to identify fake news, manage a household budget, or avoid polluting the environment are not only important for someone's well-being, but they are also of utmost importance for our society as a whole, to increase the quality of our democracy, of our economic and financial system, and to protect our planet. The European Framework of Key Competencies for Lifelong Learning already provides a solid basis for the promotion of some of these skills, such as personal, social learning and civic skills. And also the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals highlight a number of skills which are in this category, such as education for sustainable development and sustainable lifestyles, human rights, gender equality, promotion of a culture of peace and non-violence, global citizenship, and appreciation of cultural diversity. Next slide, please. And now concretely to upcoming initiatives of the European Commission which are related to this area. These two initiatives, micro-credentials for lifelong learning and employability, as well as individual learning accounts, are also part of the skills agenda for Europe, two of the actions. And for these two actions, the European Commission is planning to publish draft Council recommendations, a proposal for Council recommendations towards the end of this year. And both of these initiatives are planned to support seamless learning for all, so that one can learn anytime, anywhere, all kinds of skills. The next slide, please. During this month, beginning of this month, the Slovenian presidency of the EU Council organized a conference on adult learning, the outcomes of which are channeled into a policy document which will be adopted by ministers of education in November this year, and this will be the renewed European agenda for adult learning. And this agenda will set the priorities for lifelong learning policies at European level for the coming decade. It will look at adult learning in a holistic way, interlinked with all types and all levels of education and training, including non-formal and informal pathways. Next slide, please. And finally, very concretely about next steps. These two groups, which you can see on this slide, the national coordinators for adult learning and the working group on adult learning, which are coordinated by us here at the Commission. These two groups, with representatives from EU member states and organizations such as social partners and wider stakeholders, have life skills or skills for life among their priorities. Through these groups, we will discuss and co-create EU and national level actions and provide a forum for mutual learning on this topic. This was my introduction on EU support towards adult learning and life skills in general. I'm looking forward to the discussions today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Ja, vielen Dank an Frau Klara Engels Perenyi. Wir haben tatsächlich ein paar Fragen erhalten und die würde ich Ihnen jetzt einfach gerne stellen. Die Fragen, die sind alle auf Englisch angekommen. Und zwar finde ich es auch sehr spannend. Und zwar die erste Frage, die wir haben, ist die folgende. Could you touch on how the success of the action plan and the skills agenda are measured and documented?
Yes, so this the success is going to be built now. So the current years are there to put the ideas and objectives into reality, into real actions, and there are also a number of targets which are linked to the skills agenda and also to the European action for pillar for social rights. So I think during the next years we will have to build evidence that this kind of cooperation, which is very much built on cooperation between countries and working together on finding good solutions, sharing also experience, and stepping up efforts will lead to concrete results on the ground. And these targets are set at European level, but also at national level. There is room for setting own targets, which are the most relevant for the national context. And also the target groups are different per country and also per region. So there is a lot of room to work on very concrete solutions in your countries and also in the more local, regional and local communities.
I think the projects in the Erasmus Plus program, they offer a unique opportunity to contribute to those targets and to the achievement of those targets and KPIs as well. Our next question relates to democratic and civic competences. So how are they reflected in life skills, and are they not more important than ever to support those skills and to promote those skills?
I think these competences are indeed very, very important, and we see it through the developments in the political life in Europe and also outside Europe, how much they matter. And this will be one of the topics which we have to be brought forward in these two groups we discussed, to see how we could put something concrete in place, to see whether there is room for EU support on this topic, because I think a lot is happening already in some countries, and hopefully in more countries also.
Mm-hmm. And I think we've got time for one last question, and that relates to the competence frameworks. You already explained that the new life skills competence framework is now being brought forward and further developed and published. But the question actually relates to Entracomp, which has already been published a couple of years ago, and sort of how is that going to be incorporated in the life skills framework, and how is that going to be further developed, if you have any information or any insights to share on that?
At the moment, I don't have any concrete information on that, but we are the very first step is mapping what is available already and on what we can build, and we will also try to get a mapping from the different countries on how they look at life skills. And look at that. So at European level, it is always we have to look at what is there in the different countries and trying to build on the good practices in those where these good practices are clearly there. So at the moment, no concrete answer, but hopefully in a year's time there will be already more information.
Thank you. I think that was a very insightful input and also some quite detailed responses on the questions we got from the audience here in the room and at home. And I would like to thank you very much for that, Ms. Engels Perenyi. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference and you stay in the live stream with us.
Thank you very much.